Guys, it's Daryl here. I just got back from a 5 mile hike. I swear I do my best thinking out there in the woods with the blood flowing. So I was thinking about my last video. A lot of times, these are all just from the heart, from my gut. And a lot of times I like to go back and go over and make sure I said everything how I wanted to say it. Going back to the great America being great and everything. I think part of it too is watching when I see Trump talk about it, seeing these words come out of his mouth. And a lot of times it's used in conjunction with most powerful. And I think it's insinuating, trying to put fear into using fear as a tactic. And so I want to talk about fear versus respect. And these are two things I've had to deal with. Like I was telling you guys in the previous video, I was a tall guy, but I was a quiet guy. And that led to, I wasn't a bully by any means. I was pretty much the opposite. Whereas I would be a target of bullies because I was tall, and in which case I would have to defend myself. And I came to think about these two things, about America being great and powerful. And what it takes, what it takes to be those things. And that brought me to thinking about fear and respect. And it brought me to thinking about the Maga demographic, the supporters of Trump. I believe a lot of them are motivated by fear. Fear that somebody's going to take their slice of the pie. Fear that people have more than they have. Fear that people that are undeserving are going to get their slice of the pie. Fear that things are changing. Fear of the changes in the traditional marriage. Just fear. And I think Trump is a master manipulator of fear. Another thing I think that he uses is, you see this indecisiveness with him, or what I would call flip-flopping and changing, and a lot of Trump supporters talk this up as a good thing, that it keeps people on edge, and it does. What that does is it makes people fearful. They don't know they can't predict the future, which brings fear of change, fear of the unknown. Now I want to talk about fear versus respect. I think fear. They're both efficient. I think fear can be used in the short term to get what you want. But this is the thing. I think back when I've used it and how it came back on me, or when people have used it against me and how I felt. And I think there's consequences of using fear, like the assassination. Is the threats of we're going to overpower you with crazy violence. And I think there's unintended consequences that will always come with fear. I think fear, initially, it's going to bring resentment. Because when somebody is intentionally bullying you, putting fear into you, it, people know it, and you come to resent it. I think then also comes a vengeance, retribution, resentment, that you're being manipulated, and then I think comes rebellion eventually. And I know when I've used it, it's been in the back of my mind that it's going to come back to me. Somebody's going to come up behind me and club me in the head. That's what back in the old days, I truly believe that it's a very short-term, shallow solution or tactic, I think, fear. Whereas respect is a whole different thing. And now if you want to be the greatest country in the world, I think that's the way to go. Respect, diplomacy. When you have intelligent interaction with people, and present your side of the story, as opposed to using just fear. Look, we're stronger, and you're going to do what we want, or we're going to fuck you up. As opposed to, let's sit down. What do you want? What do you want out of this? What do I want out of this? What are our goals? And where can we meet on this? Also, I think the flip-flopping, like with Trump ripping up treaties and agreements, it creates a element of an environment of fear of the future. And whereas if you're straightforward with somebody, you build trust. And I think in the long run, trust and respect would be a much more efficient tool. So these are some of the things I wanted to add into to my last video. The whole mindset, the MAGA mindset, I'll call it, I guess, and Trump in general seems to use fear, or have fear, use fear. Like I said, to me, I just see a lot of. I also call it a scarcity, a system of scarcity, where you're constantly in a negative mindset that you got to prepare for something bad coming. You got to have all these guns, all these food. Another thing I wanted to talk, one more last thing. When I talk to Trump supporters, I'm like, how can you support this man when you know he lies, the dishonesty, the moral stuff, the mocking the handicap? How can you support this guy? And what I see, the answer I get is, I think the MAGA demographic just have a negative view of everybody. What they say is they're all like that. That's their answer. They're all people, all politicians are bad. They just some hide it just better than others. It's a very negative mindset, what I call a mindset of scarcity, of negativity. And I refuse to be a part of that. I will have hope and belief until my dying day. That's just part of my recovery. That's part of how I think these days. But yeah, they believe that all presidents, all politicians are just no good, and at least this guy is working for them or with them or is one of them. I'm never even sure how they come about this, because obviously there's financial. He's a billionaire, and most Trump supporters aren't. That's an obvious one. I mean, he is a older, white male, well-off, children. So I think, and some would call racist, and I think a lot of people identify with that. He's one of us. Yeah, he's a liar, morally questionable, and that's putting it nicely, but he's one of us, at least, and that's the way they look at it. In other words, it's the lesser of two evils in their mind, and I for one, I refuse to be a part of that, man. I think we deserve better than the lesser of two evils. Screw that, man. I think there's better people out there. I mean, I don't want to go all the way back to Washington. Look at Washington, and I cannot tell a lie. Abraham Lincoln, Kennedy. Look at Jimmy Carter is one. Personally, I know I'll probably catch flack for this, but I think Jimmy Carter was a great person, it still is a great person, a good person, good heart. So I do have belief in people. I do think there's good people out there, and I think we deserve them to lead us. I don't think we should have to settle for a liar that's somewhat like us, I refuse to be a part of the thought process of negativity and scarcity. I refuse to. Then that's it. So that's what I have to say today. It's a beautiful day here in Connecticut, and I'm hopping on that bike for the first time in months and going for a ride on my mountain bike. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good weekend.